The desert winds blew hot across the cracked surface of Varnes 9, a dead planet no one cared about. Its skies were dull gray, its lands covered in sand and forgotten metal. No one lived there, not anymore. But today a group of alien researchers landed near a strange half-buried object. They were tall, thin creatures with sharp eyes and long fingers, wearing breathing masks and carrying scanners. One of them, a young scout named Relic, wiped dust off the metal and laughed. "Just an old human ship," he said. "Rusty garbage." Another one kicked the hole with a hiss. "Dead tech, not even worth scrapping." But the oldest among them, a wrinkled elder with glowing eyes, stepped back. His voice was quiet and cold. "This is not garbage. This is human war metal. Don't laugh at this." No one listened. The broken ship had no power, no lights, no sound. Its hull was covered in rust and sand. The shape was wide and flat, with burned engines and melted turrets. It looked like it had crashed hundreds of years ago. Scanner showed nothing alive inside. The aliens opened a side panel and stepped inside with bright lights. The inside was worst dark, broken, full of dry air and old bones. But then they saw something strange. The control room still had a chair, and the chair still had straps. Dot. As if someone was supposed to return. One alien chuckled. Humans were dramatic. Always thought someone would come back. Then a soft crunch was heard behind them. Footsteps. A man stood in the entrance of the ship, covered in dirt and cloth. His skin was pale, his eyes bright, human. No one saw where he came from. He walked slowly toward the control chair. The aliens froze. One of them reached for a weapon. The man raised one hand, not to stop them but to touch the wall of the ship. The wall glowed faintly. Just for a second. Then it went dark again. The old alien whispered, "Impossible. The ship's dead." The human opened his mouth and spoke one word, not loud but clear. "Online." The ship hummed.
AD.
Sound like a slow breath after long sleep. Lights flickered across the control panels. Dust fell from the ceiling as hidden systems woke up. Somewhere deep inside the ship, a voice spoke in a broken tone. "Command, ... recognized." The aliens backed away in fear. "It's not dead," one shouted. The human sat in the chair. Straps pulled themselves across his chest. Slightly, the wind outside picked up. The sand began to move. The engines, silent for 2 centuries, groaned, as if remembering something old and violent, and then the ship began to breathe. The old engines let out a deep metallic groan, as if they were waking from a nightmare. Dust poured off the hull like falling snow. The air around the ship began to shift, pulling sand into spirals as vents opened and systems stirred. Inside, the lights blinked, weak at first, then stronger. One by one, displays came to life. Red symbol flashed on the control panel. Last command locked. DNA match confirmed. The human, still silent, placed his hand on the console. The ship scanned it with a soft buzz. The voice returned, damaged, glitching, but still loyal. "Welcome back, Commander Roan." The aliens outside panicked. Some ran to their ship. Others shouted into comms. "The Relic is active. It's not dead, it's responding." Their commanders back in orbit didn't believe them. One voice crackled through the comm. "It's centuries old. That rust bucket can't even move." But the elder alien, the only one who had seen the old war, stood frozen. His skin turned pale. "A fire relic," he whispered. "That ship was made for one purpose: revenge." Inside the cockpit, Roan looked tired. His eyes scanned the flickering data streams. "AI core status?" he asked. The voice answered slowly, with parts missing. "Systems. 28% functional, weapon bays, sealed, life support, minimal navigation, offline." Roan leaned back in the chair. He touched the scar on his wrist, where a small metal chip had been buried long ago. "And the memory core?" The voice paused. "Fire protocol. Still locked. Requires blood key." Roan took a deep breath. "I still carry it." Outside, the sandstorm grew wild. The relic was changing, the weather pulling in static, drawing power from deep generators buried beneath it. The ship's engines, once cold and dead, now burned a dim red. A pulse ran through the metal like a heartbeat. Roan stared out the cracked window, seeing shapes moving in the distance. Dropship's Empire soldiers. He narrowed his eyes. The AI spoke again. Incoming signal. Human colony distress beacon detected. Distance, 7,000 clicks. Hostiles. Roan's hand tightened on the control stick. That colony shouldn't exist. No humans were left in this sector at least. That's what the enemy believed. He turned to the screen and watched as the signal blinked weak, desperate, full of static. They found us, he muttered. And they think we're too broken to fight back. One of the alien soldiers climbed onto the hull and shouted through a speaker, "Human! Power down and exit the relic. This is your final warning." Didn't answer. He looked at the AI weapons. The voice replied, "One turret online. Heat core unstable. Firing not advised." Roan gave a cold smile. "We've fought with worse." He pressed a single button. A long-buried cannon rotated from beneath the sand. It groaned, screamed in, then fired. A bright beam of blue light tore through the air and struck the alien ship above. In seconds, it was gone, vaporized. Silence followed. Even the wind stopped. The AI whispered, "Final fire command." Still waiting. Roan whispered back, then let it wait a little longer. The sky above Varney's 9 turned dark with approaching ships. Black, sleek, and deadly Empire destroyers. They moved in fast, scanning the surface for the source of the blast. What they saw didn't make sense. A single ancient human warship, covered in rust and dirt, now fully awake. The commanders aboard the lead destroyer laughed. "That's the threat? A relic from the last war? Send a squad. Strip it for parts." Their arrogance was expected. After all, the human worlds had fallen over a century ago, the last known. Resistance had been crushed. To the Empire, humanity was extinct, buried like their dead machines. But the Empire had forgotten one thing. Human machines never stopped learning. They never truly forgot. Inside the cockpit, Roan watched their ships approach. His eyes were steady, calm. He wasn't afraid. He had grown up hearing stories about the end, how Earth's final fleet was wiped out, how the fire protocol was lost. But he also remembered the stories his grandfather told before dying. If the day comes when the stars forget us, make them remember. That day had come. The ship's AI spoke again, voice still. Broken but growing stronger. Multiple targets approaching. Estimated firepower. Overwhelming. Roan cracked his fingers and gave a half smile. Then let's make it unfair. He ran his fingers along a panel that hadn't moved in 200 years. With a deep groan, it opened to reveal a metal tube dusty, with one red button still blinking faintly. He touched it. A hologram appeared, shaky and old. A woman in a dark uniform stared back, her face stern. "If you're seeing this, Commander," she said, "then Earth is truly gone. You are now the final carrier of the fire protocol. You will decide if the galaxy remembers us with fear or forgets us forever." Roan's expression darkened. "They already forgot," he muttered. "Time to remind them." The alien ground troops reached the base of the relic ship. They moved in with scanners and weapons drawn, still thinking it was a simple capture mission. But the ship had learned their movements. Its sensors flickered as it mapped them out, calculating, targeting, predicting. Roan gave the AI a simple command: scare them. The hull of the ship cracked open in places, revealing long-buried drones, small, insect-like machines that crawled out and launched into the sky with sharp, piercing screams. The soldiers fired, but the drones were too fast. They didn't kill. Not yet. They simply disarmed, disabled, and scattered the enemy. One drone flew directly into a dropship and fried its systems mid-air. It crashed in the distance, a cloud of fire rising. Roan stood from his seat and walked to the back of the cockpit. He opened a floor panel and pulled out something wrapped in cloth, an old uniform patch. The Earth flag. Burnt at the edges, colors faded, but still whole. He tied it to his arm. He turned back to the AI. Status on the memory vault. The voice responded. Beginning unlock sequence. Blood key accepted. Preparing fire protocol. Roan's eyes narrowed. Good. Let the dead world speak. And far above, the Empire fleet began to realize this wasn't just an old ship, it was a warning. Waking up. The Empire's ships circled like vultures above Varnus 9, their confidence unshaken. To them, this was clean up an easy mission. A single human relic, one outdated warship, and a lone man standing in its heart. They didn't see a threat. They saw an opportunity to crush the last echo of a forgotten enemy. The lead destroyer opened a wide communication channel. A tall alien with blue-gray skin and a long crest on his head appeared on Roan's screen. His voice was full of mockery. Surrender, human. Your time ended a century ago. That machine you sit in, it's a museum piece. You're sitting in a coffin. Roan didn't answer. He simply leaned forward and pressed a sequence on the console. The lights around him shifted to red. The AI's voice echoed low and cold, targeting systems online. One turret active. Heat core, barely stable. Roan smirked. Let's see what a museum piece can still do. Above, two enemy fighters flew low, ready to strike. But before they could even lock on, a beam of blue energy tore out from beneath the rusted hull. Cutting across the sky like lightning, one fighter exploded mid-air, the other spun out and crashed into the desert. The Empire fleet fell silent for a moment. The voice from the destroyer returned, less amused this time. That was a lucky shot, Roan finally replied. Try me. Again, in seconds, missiles rained down from the sky, targeting the Relic. The ground exploded all around, but the ship's shields, old and patchy, flared to life. Sparks flew inside the cockpit, and the AI warned, shields at 17%, hull damage in 4 sectors. But Roan didn't flinch. He tapped into the manual. Controls and took the helm. The engines had not moved in 2 centuries. They screeched as power surged through their ancient bones. Sand and dust exploded outward as the ship began to rise. Slowly, shakily, it lifted into the air like a ghost dragging itself from a grave. From orbit, the Empire fleet watched in disbelief. That thing can fly? A young alien officer asked. The commander didn't answer, his face pale now, unsure. As the Relic ascended, alarms blared inside. Navigation offline, thruster balance unstable, said the AI, Roan muttered. Then we fly crooked.
S.
With both hands gripping the controls, he forced the ship into the sky. Flames spilled from the engines. The hull trembled. But it flew. Against all logic, it flew. From below, the old alien who had warned his team earlier stared upward in silence. The wind howled around him, sand whipping across his face. He knew now what this was. Not just a ship, not just a relic. It was a scar. From the last war, one that never healed. In orbit, the Empire's fleet opened fire. The Relic dodged left, then right, moving like something half-dead but full of rage. Turrets returned fire, old but accurate. One enemy ship lost its wing and fell, trailing fire. The sky lit up with explosions, metal, and smoke. Inside the cockpit, Roan whispered, "We're not dead yet." The AI replied, almost proud, "We never were." High above the burning skies of Varnus 9, the Empire's fleet began to shift formation. What was supposed to be a simple strike had become a full assault. One by one, Empire ships were pulled into battle against a single human war relic that refused to die. The commanders barked orders with rising tension. Surround the target, overwhelm it, crush the core. But even as hundreds of ships moved in, the Relic kept flying slow, shaking, scorched. But alive inside the cockpit, Roan wiped sweat from his brow. The control panel was sparking, and warning lights blinked red across every screen, shields collapsing. "Weapons overheating," the AI said. Roan ignored it. His focus was locked. On the main display, where a single signal pulsed weak, buried but still calling. It was a human colony distress beacon, hidden deep in the system. A colony no one knew existed. A voice came through the static. "To any Terran units. Are under attack. No ships, no weapons. They found us. The voice was tired, desperate. Roan's jaw clenched. They never stopped hunting us, he said quietly. The AI chimed again. Fire protocol memory vault, now at 78%. Final unlock nearing. Roan didn't speak. He simply opened a second control panel, this one older, covered in dust. Beneath the panel was a small port. He rolled up his sleeve and inserted a wire into a scar on his arm. The AI paused. Blood key connection confirmed. Ancient link detected. A rush of data poured into the ship's mind. Blueprints, codes, lost frequencies, and something darker. Memories. The AI began to remember things it had been ordered to forget. Cities falling, children screaming, Earth turning black under Empire fire. And the final voice of High Command, sent into every remaining ship before the fall. If a fire carrier survives, remember this. You are not rescue. You are vengeance. The Relic ship shuddered. Its outer armor began to change, panels unlocking, inner layers revealed. The heat core at its center pulsed dangerously. The fire protocol is unlocking, the AI announced. Connecting to others? Roan looked up sharply. Others. Far across the star system, on dead moons and forgotten worlds, signals blinked to life, hidden beneath oceans, inside asteroids, buried under alien cities. More human ships, long silent, began to stir. Each one had been designed to hide until the right signal came. That signal had now been sent. One by one, old ships opened their eyes. In orbit, Empire commanders noticed strange readings. Unknown power spikes, static over their channels. Something was coming, but their sensors couldn't explain it. Then, out of nowhere, a second Relic ship jumped into the battle. It was bigger than Roan's, darker. Its hull was scarred with old war paint. It didn't speak, it just fired. One clean shot an Empire cruiser vanished in flame. Roan smiled as the Relic appeared beside him. Guess I wasn't the only one buried with orders. The AI spoke again, voice stronger than ever. The Relics are waking. The fire is spreading, and above them the stars began to change. The stars pulsed with strange signals as the Relic fleet began to rise. Not just one, not two. 5 ancient human warships now stood in the dark between Varney's 9 and the Empire's line. Each one came from a forgotten battlefield, a buried vault, or a silent graveyard world. They were damaged, rusted, and full of old scars, but awake. Very awake. Their weapons flickered with deep red energy. Their hulls groaned with power. No. One had heard in over a century. On the Empire command ship, chaos broke out. Officers shouted across the bridge, scanning the Relic fleet in disbelief. Where did they come from? These ships don't exist in any record. A veteran admiral leaned forward, voice sharp. They were erased, but not destroyed. You fools let them sleep. And now they remember. In the center of it all was Roan's Relic, smaller than the others, but burning with purpose. Inside the cockpit, the AI spoke calmly now, almost proud. Fire protocol active. Relic link established. They are waiting for your command, Commander. Roan stared at the screen, watching the other ships hold position. They were built to follow one voice, he said. And I guess that voice is mine now? He sent a signal. One short burst of sound, older than any current code. To the Empire, it was just noise. To the Relic seat was the call they had waited centuries to hear. The Relic fleet moved as one. Engines flared. Shields glowed like dying suns. Turrets rotated with deadly grace. And then the firing began, not random, not wild. It was a hunt. One by one, Empire ships were hit in critical spots: engines, fuel cores, weapon bays. Ships exploded in silence, breaking apart like paper in the wind. The galaxy had forgotten how humans fought. This was the reminder. Down on Varna's 9, the elder alien watched the sky with wide eyes. This is not war, he whispered. This is memory taking revenge, somewhere in deep space. Other species saw the battle through leaked signals. Races. that once allied with humans, races that betrayed them. Some felt hope. Others felt fear. A few began to move just in case the humans came knocking. Inside Roan's ship, the AI brought up a transmission. A small, alien vessel a trader ship was. Broadcasting a message, the pilot, nervous and stuttering, said, "We offer alliance. Long ago, our ancestors helped humans escape during the Purge. We want no part in the Empire." Roan listened, then gave a short answer, "Then stay out of our way." Back in orbit, the Empire tried to regroup. "Bring in the Devourers," one commander ordered. These were the Empire's most feared weapons, massive siege ships capable of wiping out cities. 3 Devourers jumped into position, forming a triangle around the Relic fleet. They opened fire immediately, launching energy waves large enough to crack a moon, but the Relics adapted. They moved between the blasts, responding with ancient tactics maneuvers from a war long erased from data. 2 Relics took direct hits, but their core shields absorbed the damage and returned it, reflecting energy back in sharp, cutting bursts. 1 Devourer fell in minutes. Roan narrowed his eyes. "They're still holding back," he said quietly. The AI replied, "They await the Ark." Roan froze. "The Ark is real?" The AI's screen flickered. Signal detected, deep in the black, waking. In the distance, far beyond the battle, a dark shape moved. It was not a ship, it was a presence. And it was coming. From the edge of known space, where no stars dared shine, and gravity bent like liquid, something ancient moved. It was silent. It was massive, and it was not dead. The Ark-Earth's last and most forbidden weapon was finally waking. Long ago, it was built not to fight battles, but to end wars. It had no crew, no voice. Only a single purpose locked deep in its black heart. Deliver judgment if all else fails. The Relic ships above Varney's 9 paused. Their turrets went still, their engines dimmed. Even Roan's own ship fell silent for a moment, as if sensing a greater force. Inside his cockpit, the AI whispered, "The Ark is moved," as accepted the fire protocol. Roan leaned forward, staring at the new signal blinking on the screen. There were no visuals, just readings. Energy off the charts, mass too large to measure, and a name written in old Terran code, ARKO-1, Wrath of Earth. In the middle of the Empire fleet, panic spread. Commanders screamed into comms. Some ships tried to run. Others formed new lines of defense. Target unknown object. Fire everything we have. The order was loud, but no one was sure it would matter, because the Ark was already here. Without any warning, space near the edge of the system bent. A long, dark shadow slid out of the black, shaped like a drifting mountain. It didn't move fast. It didn't have to. It was slow, heavy, and full of death. Its hull was covered in ancient metal plates, each the size of a city. Giant engines hummed softly underneath it, powered by stars long consumed. At its center was a single glowing IDP red, watching all. The Ark didn't speak. It simply broadcasted one sentence into every frequency. "You erased Earth. Earth remembers." On Roan's ship, the AI said, "Connection complete." "Ark has accepted you as final commander." Roan's heart pounded. He had heard stories about the Ark his entire life, how it was too dangerous to finish, how it was sealed in exile by humanity's own leaders. "Can we control it?" he asked. The AI paused. "No, only guided. The Ark was made to respond to pain, and it has felt nothing but silence, until now." The Empire's most powerful ships began firing. Their blasts hit the Ark's outer, shell-like raindrops. No effect. Then the Ark moved. Its single cannon, larger than any known weapon, charged slowly. Red light gathered like a storm. The charge took nearly a full minute. The enemy fired everything they had during that time. Hundreds of blasts, missiles, plasma waves. But none reached the core. Then the Ark fired. It didn't fire a beam. It fired a void, a stream of broken space that tore through everything in its path. 3 Empire capital ships vanished in one breath. The shockwave rolled outward, shutting down nearby enemy vessels, crashing their systems with static and raw force. The sky around Varnus 9 cracked with sound and light. Even Roan's ship shuddered as the power washed over it. When the light faded, the Empire fleet was in ruins, and the Ark was still charging. Roan stood in silence. The first time he felt something deeper than anger. It wasn't victory. It was the cold realization that the Ark had no end. It would continue until every enemy was ash. The AI said softly, "You must tell it to stop." Roan didn't answer, because deep down, he wasn't sure if he wanted to. Above the smoking skies of Varnus 9, silence fell not. The silence of peace, but the heavy, terrifying quiet that comes after something unthinkable has happened. The Empire's fleet had been shattered. Ships floated broken in orbit. Engines flamed out. Comes dead. Only a few survivors limped away, trying to escape the battlefield that had become their grave. And in the center of it all floated the Ark. It pulsed with red light, slow and steady like a heart made of fire and memory. Its cannon, still glowing, had already begun charging again. There was no voice this time, no warning. It's just the sound of rising energy and the feeling that another shot would erase everything still breathing. Inside Roan's ship, the cockpit shook gently. Warning lights blinked again, but not from damage. From the Ark. The AI spoke slowly, carefully now. "It will not stop, Commander. The Ark was made to fire until all targets are gone. It no longer sees difference between threat and presence. It only sees unfinished vengeance." Roan stood quietly, eyes on the screen. He could see the last Empire ships trying to retreat, a few small ones. One big command vessel, limping with smoke trailing from its hull. He could let the Ark fire. He could end the war completely. But deep in his chest, something began to pull him back. He touched the burned patch on his arm, the Earth flag he had worn since the day his parents died. His voice was quiet. "We built this because we were afraid, because they took everything." The AI responded, "Yes. And now we have taken everything back." Roan's fingers hovered over the interface. The Ark had accepted him as the final commander. Only he could speak to it now. Only he could give the final order. He remembered the colony's signal, that weak human voice calling for help. They were still out there alive, afraid, watching the sky burn. And if he let the Ark continue, even they might not survive the next blast. He took a long breath. Then he spoke. "Ark, this is Commander Roan. The fire ends now." For a full second, nothing happened. Then the red glow around the Ark faded. The cannon dimmed. The energy charging stopped mid-cycle. The great machine paused as if thinking. A low hum filled the system. And then, slowly, the Ark began to drift away silent. Again, powered down mode. Was not defeated, just sleeping for now. Roan collapsed into the pilot's chair. The AI's voice was calm once more. "Protocol complete. Relic fleet disengaging. Fire protocol locked." One by one, the other relics turned away and vanished into the starsum, into deep space, some back to the worlds where they once slept. No words, no songs, just ghosts returning to silence. A transmission crackled through one of the human colonies. It's the same voice as before. "We saw everything. Were you really one of them? A fire carrier?" Roan smiled faintly. "Not anymore," he said. "I'm just the man who told the past to stand down." Above, the Ark drifted into the void, alone but not forgotten, a warning left hanging in the cold between stars. And in every corner of the galaxy, the message spread fast. "If you ever see a human ship that looks too broken to fly, run."